Hi! Today I will be doing a close reading of Abraham Lincoln's letter to Erastus Corning and others, dated June 12, 1863. Many have debated the ethics of Abraham Lincoln's suspension of various American civil liberties leading up to and during the Civil War. Some have even called into question his commitment to the U.S. Constitution and the work of the Founding Fathers. This letter to Erastus Corning, the wealthy and influential president of the New York Central Railroad, and his delegation of fellow Democratic Copperheads, is one document that can be seen as a response to such critics, a validation of Lincoln's constitutional knowledge, and proof of his dedication to the principles upon which the country was founded. Just a few notes of background. The Copperheads were a group of anti-war Democrats so termed by the Republicans because they viewed them as venomous snakes that were trying to undermine the integrity of the Union. In this letter, dated June 12, 1863, Lincoln responds to an earlier letter written to him by Corning and other Democrats who actually were generally supportive of the Union's cause, but sought to protest against what they viewed as Lincoln's unlawful arrest of politician Clement Vallandigham, the outspoken leader of the Northern Copperheads, who bashed Lincoln's administration and disputed the efficacy of the war against the South. Some even labeled him a Southern sympathizer. Shortly before this correspondence occurred, Lincoln had arrested Vallandigham on counts of treason and deported him from the country. Lincoln's response addresses Corning's concerns and attempts to explain why he felt justified in acting as he did. In my mind, it seems that Lincoln uses each of the Aristotelian styles of argumentation, namely ethos, his own authority as president and his reputation as a fair and lawful leader, logos, sound, logical, constitutional reasoning, and pathos, an emotional plea to the opposition. We'll now look at some examples of each argument to show how Lincoln is respectful to his opponents, but still able to produce solid, logical reasoning for his suspension of civil liberties. Right from the beginning, Lincoln praises Corning and his delegation's good intentions. The resolutions, as I understand them, are resolved into two propositions. First, the expression of a purpose to sustain the cause of the Union, to secure peace through victory, and to support the administration in every constitutional and lawful measure to suppress the rebellion. He knows that they fundamentally support Lincoln and his administration, and that they seek to do what is best for the Union. In this sense, Lincoln assumes the position of father figure, and does his best to reassure the people that he understands their plight and also wants what is best for the country. But he also recognizes that they have an additional purpose, that is, a declaration of censure upon the administration for supposed unconstitutional action, such as the making of military arrests. He knows that however altruistic the group seems to be, they still reject his personal decision to make military arrests, with the suspension of the habeas corpus law. As the country's leader, he must also lay down the law. And so he continues with an attempt to prove why he is justified in making these arrests and suspending habeas corpus. He states that these suspensions are necessary exceptions to the rule because they uphold the general safety of the Republic. He says clearly, "Ours is a case of rebellion, so called by the resolutions before me. In fact, a clear, flagrant, and gigantic case of rebellion. And the provision of the Constitution that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it, is the provision which specially applies to our present case." In other words, normally suspending liberties is bad, but the normal rules are no longer in effect under these rebellious wartime circumstances. Lincoln is justified in taking whatever measures necessary to protect the Union and protect its citizens. He goes on to say that he who dissuades one man from volunteering or induces one soldier to desert weakens the Union cause as much as he who kills a Union soldier in battle. In Lincoln's mind, a political instigator such as Vallandigham is really just as dangerous as any Confederate soldier. So he needs to be shut down. After much discussion and many proof texts, Lincoln concludes that in order to protect the Republic and the system of law upon which it stood, a temporary shift in civil liberties for those who were seeking to destroy that system was justified. Finally, Lincoln goes beyond the logic and incorporates pathos, emotion, into his argument. He evokes the image of a military deserter and the person who incites him to desert. Who deserves punishment, he asks, the soldier because he has deserted, or the instigator, without whom the soldier would never have thought to disobey orders? Lincoln concludes with the following: I think that in such a case, to silence the agitator and save the boy is not only constitutional, but, withal, a great mercy. Above and beyond the law, he states, he has a moral obligation to make sure that he who incites violence and bloodshed is punished. Vallandigham was such an instigator, and his arrest was necessary in order to prevent further. There were several reactions to Lincoln's letter. Corning's group responded in a follow-up letter, where they stated that they found Lincoln's attempt to base his decision on the text of the Constitution to be gigantic and monstrous heresy, and were stunned by how one man could manipulate the law to allow for his absolute sovereignty, while leading liberty to perish. More impressive was the number of prominent politicians and other important figures who wrote to Lincoln to congratulate him on such a decisive peace, and commended his courage and conviction. The letter seemingly did much to assuage doubt amongst those on the fence that the president was not seeking power undemocratically, but rather was using the democratic system to keep the existing lawful structures in place. Historians, too, have lauded Lincoln's attitude in the letter, calling it altogether excellent, and observing that few of Lincoln's state papers produced a stronger impression upon the public mind. An even more telling consequence was that Corning, the leader of the meeting that called Lincoln's intentions into question, resigned from public office in the aftermath of the whole affair. Lincoln's letter, originally an attempt to address local concerns, exploded into a passionate call for Union loyalty and allowed him to continue to uphold his tough decision amidst further political turmoil. This letter is a successful counter to the criticisms leveled at Lincoln for his abandonment of enemy civil liberties. Lincoln is seen to be understanding of the opposition, yet fervently strong in his belief that he is doing the right thing. He's also equally committed to the law. This letter helps illuminate the main reasons why Lincoln felt it was prudent to arrest and limit the exposure to Clement Vallandigham and his outspoken opinions, and how the suspension of those liberties expanded to all enemy combatants. From the letter, we learn a great deal about Lincoln's character and commitment, his will to serve the people, and his desire to protect the Union at all costs. Thank you for listening.